Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let Me Reintroduce Myself. I'm Asia. I'm your host. And in this podcast, we talk all about self-development, becoming your best self, your higher self, and loving yourself through this journey of life. So if you are into self-love, self-growth, self-development, and just embodying that best version of yourself, then this is the place for you. Today's episode is called It's Your Life, Not Theirs, and getting obsessed with your life, your healing, and your journey. So kind of just open up this podcast, and the reason why that I'm even on this journey as well with this podcast and forming this community is just because, again, I want to help everyone to embody their best self, love their life, love themselves, and yeah, we're only here once, so let's just make this the best experience that we can. So, however, what do I mean by it's your life, not theirs? So I saw this on Instagram, but the whole purpose of it's your life, not theirs is more so about living for you, living for your dreams, your desires. Again, it's your life. I think a lot of times we get caught up in living for others, trying to appease others, or just due to possibly people-pleasing tendencies, we try to live a life that we are not even wanting. And sometimes we do this, like I said, because of people-pleasing tendencies. Maybe we have trauma over just our lives in general, and we're very confused on who we are. And so that's why I think it's so important on your journey of self-development, self-growth, is really discovering who it is that you are, what it is that you want, and what is going to help you get there. But I think first things first is understanding who it is that you are. And that's something that we're going to talk about today and also throughout this podcast series, is getting to the root of who you are. Because if we don't really know who we are, and a lot of the time we are programmed and conditioned to be somebody or to conditioned to have certain desires, but a lot of these desires are not even our own, but they were, again, programmed into us, possibly throughout childhood. Maybe it is parents that place these desires on us. Maybe it's society as a whole. So I think it's super important just to figure out who it is that we are so that we can discover what it is that we truly want, what fulfills us, what makes us happy, what makes us light up with life. And I think it's so important to just live a life that you love. I think a lot of times we fall into the trap of living a life that we do not like, and that can turn into a downward spiral very quickly. So the best thing that you can do starting off in your self-development journey is to ask yourself why you are the way that you are, and dig deep asking yourself those questions. Why are you the way that you are? Why do you like the things that you like? Are these things and personality traits your own, or were they placed upon you? I think that's the first things first, is to understand what has been ingrained in you. Was it your own, or is it something that you picked up throughout your journey, or was this placed upon you? But again, the reason why that this is so important is to understand and peel back those layers, is because we need to know ourselves on a deeper level so that we can truly thrive and live a life that we truly want. Next, it is important to make peace with where you are always. So finding a grounding state in where you are is going to help you, so that way that you can understand where it is that you are and where it is that you're trying to go. So that you can also have a roadmap of where it is that you're trying to go and who you are trying to be and embody. But having some sort of direction and understanding where we are, accepting where we are, is really important in that journey. So that way we can also just lessen the resistance of change. And if you are somewhere that you don't like, or if you are embodying someone that you don't like, or living a life that you don't like, having a war with where you are is always going to push you in the direction of the opposite direction of where you're trying to go. it's so important here to accept, acknowledge, and let go and move on. So once you kind of start to understand and identify the things that are your own versus what was placed upon you, start to visualize your higher self. Start to understand, okay, what is it that I want to create for myself? What fills me up? And I suggest going through Pinterest, looking at some examples, and this is another key point, is that sometimes we don't even know what we want. So take your time with this. This is a journey. Again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, but take some time to really dive in on what it is that you truly want. Who is it that you want to be? What legacy do you want to live or leave? And so take your time with this. This isn't something that you need to complete within a day, maybe not even a week or a month or a year, whatever the case may be. Sometimes this looks different for everyone. Sometimes you're still discovering yourself or unwinding, certain traits that you don't like. This isn't a linear process. I also want to remind you that this is not a linear process. This can be, a full cycle. I'm still discovering parts of me that I don't like or what I want to create and what I want to embody. So if you always have to go back to the drawing board, that's normal. That's okay. You can always change things up. You can always go back to the drawing board. That's okay. It's normal. So don't feel bad if you do feel that you need to change some things again or rewrite some things on your quote unquote vision board or list of desires. But in this process of discovering who it is that you are and what you want to be and who you want to be, I want you to really sit with yourself. This is somewhat of an action step that you can take daily and input in your meditation practice. If you're not meditating daily, I highly recommend it, or at least a few times a week. Start to adopt certain, I would even go to say routines or rituals that you do every day. For me, now I don't practice meditation every single day. However, it is a goal of mine to practice every single day. But when I do meditate, I also like to visualize, my higher self and, what does she look like? What does she talk like? Who does she surround herself with? How does she dress? How does she, present herself? How does she talk? What character traits does she have? What is she known for? For me, to give you some examples, some things that I've been really working on is my feminine energy and, being more warm, being more nurturing, being more kind. And this is something that, I was not really raised upon. It's something that I didn't really see often. I saw a lot of aggression, a lot of masculine traits growing up from both my parents, actually. So, when you're on this journey of, redefining who it is that you are and what you want to be, you kind of have to look at the patterns that you grew up and saw. So for me, like I said, I saw a lot of aggression, a lot of masculinity, a lot of anger, a lot of just yelling and just not the kind of person that I envisioned myself to be. And so it took me some time to really understand what it is that I wanted to change, because sometimes we may have an idea of like someone that we look up to or admire and like, oh, I admire this person's life, or I admire these person's, character traits. But if how you were raised did not match that, it might take you a little bit longer to get to that point. And I say that because, like I said, I was not raised upon like very soft spoken people, soft or very loving, very kind, very united, very supportive and encouraging. In fact, I would go as far to say that I grew up in an environment that I do not want to replicate whatsoever. So that's why this journey is so important. And I also just encourage you not to judge yourself during this time, not to compare yourself like, oh, well, Julie down the street, she just looks like she has it all. Like, I love the way that she talks. I love her relationships. I love her life. You don't know Julie's story. Maybe Julie grew up in an environment where that was very present in her life. Maybe or not. And maybe you grew up in an environment that's not something you want to create long term. So I encourage you to give yourself some grace here. Like, give yourself some grace. If you grew up in an environment that you do not want to replicate, it might take you a little bit longer to break those habits, break those patterns, and to recreate something different for yourself. So give yourself some grace. You never know what kind of life and, conditioning someone grows up with. So give yourself some grace if you are feeling like there's a lot of things to change here. Take it one step at a time. Again, it's a journey. You're changing, you're evolving, you're understanding patterns that you don't want to recreate, and that's okay. So understand where it is that you are, what it is that you were brought up with, and understand where it is that you're trying to go. So again, I say this, that visualization and embodying the emotions of your desired state. And what do I mean by state is your energy. So how it is that you want to show up in the world. How are you identifying yourself? In order to change, it is so helpful when you are visualizing yourself showing up as that person every day, or as often as you can. So even when I'm at work or anything, I'm sometimes imagining myself in certain situations, or sometimes I'll reflect at the end of the day and think, okay, did I show up as my higher self today? Did I act like her? Did I talk like her? Were there things that I could have done differently? Like, there will be times where I'll have even situations when I'm talking to someone and I'm like, I didn't really like that. I could have handled that a little bit differently. I could have shown up as, a better version of myself that would have handled things a little bit differently. So it's awareness here. Awareness is key here at this point. So just being very aware, being very present with how you speak, how you walk, how you talk, how you interact with others. Are you in alignment with your higher self? But that's why it's so important to visualize and meditate on that person every day. So that way it's more so at the forefront of your mind throughout your day. It'll make it a lot easier. Okay, the next tip here with getting obsessed with your life is that some roads you just might have to take alone. No friends, no family, just you and yourself and God or the universe, whatever you believe in. Some roads, again, you just need to take alone. Now, I'm not saying you need to completely isolate yourself, but especially in this journey of change, sometimes it is best to spend as much time alone as possible when you are in the midst of changing. I say this because when you have shown the world versions of yourself and you are now trying to change many things about yourself, subconsciously, when you are around those people, subconsciously, you may still act as that past version of yourself, the version that you're trying to change. Because a lot of times when we show up around certain people, and let me give you an example. For example, if you are on a journey of trying to be healthier, and make better dietary decisions. I'll say, even for my own example, one time I had a friend, and we were very much known to always go out and eat, and I mean eat a lot. We would do all you can eat. And I decided, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I want to make better eating decisions. But yet whenever I came around this person, I would just naturally, subconsciously feel like I had to eat a lot because that's just who she's so used to being around. I'm so used to being that person around her. And so I would just eat. And then there was one day I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to eat like that. But when I'm around you, that's just the kind of version of myself that you knew and I knew when we were together. I had this correlation between us. When I'm around this person, we eat a lot. So I had to break that. So again, being very aware of who you are when you're around certain people is also very key. That's why I say it might be easier if you take this journey alone. Another example, same thing. I realized, especially around family, my family knew a certain version of myself growing up. And when I was in this process of changing, I realized I needed to limit my time around them, because when I was around them, it would bring out a certain version of me that I did not like. And I didn't want to be that person. So I tried to spend as little time with them as possible, just because I did not like who I was with them. They brought out a version of me that I was not proud to be. So I had to be very aware of when I'm around them, to be very aware of who I am showing up as. And usually, sometimes subconsciously, again, we're going to show up as that person that we've been so used to being with them. So that's why I say, decide for yourself. Do you need to go up zero contact? Do you need to just limit your contact? But again, it's so much easier to change when you are alone, because you're in full control and completely present with who you're being and what you want to create. Next, it's your life, not theirs. And the next tip that I want to say is, do not downgrade your dreams to just fit your reality, but upgrade your conviction to match your desired reality. And I say this because sometimes we shrink ourselves. Sometimes we dim our light, or try to convince ourselves that that dream that we want, that we've been thinking about for so long, isn't possible. So sometimes we'll replace that dream with something smaller, just to soothe ourselves. That way we don't feel that we're not good enough for that dream, or that it's just too big. So sometimes we'll dream smaller, just so that we can feel that we are not so much less than what we are going for. But I encourage you not to do this. It is nothing wrong with having big dreams. Even if you are so far away from that dreams, I encourage you to not shrink that, but to upgrade your conviction to match that desired reality. That is why I say visualization, meditation and mindfulness practice are so important, especially if you feel that you are very far away from your dreams. Don't shrink yourself. Don't dim yourself to match other people's expectations, or don't dim yourself just to feel that you're closer than not. You're worthy of your dreams. You're deserving of your dreams. Imagination is the best tool that you can have, and imagination is your superpower. So dream big, and to think big, and to go after what it is that you truly want, even if you feel that you are very far away from it, because you just might even reach it or more. You never know. But it's better to try and to get that thing versus to never try at all. You're never a failure, but the one way to fail for sure is to not even go for it. The next tip that I have for getting obsessed with your life is that everything happens on a mental level before it happens on a physical level. So a lot of the things that we see here on the physical level in our reality is just a prior manifestation of our thoughts and our mental states. Again, that is why it's so important to get our mindset right. And again, you have to believe in yourself, in your dreams, and the person that you want to be, and the kind of life that you want to live, no matter what your external circumstances are. Your external circumstances does not matter. Again, they are only a prior manifestation of what you were embodying, what energy and frequency you were holding. So don't pay attention to your 3D reality. Pay attention to what is going on into your mental and your mindset before your reality. It happens internally before it happens externally. The next tip, and we'll go deeper into this topic on another podcast, but your ego sometimes will sabotage the progress that you're making towards the person that you want to become, because it is so used to being this current version of yourself. So for example, if you have been accustomed to having a poverty mindset, your ego might even sabotage your efforts into becoming wealthy, because any kind of change is signaling to your ego that it is in danger. Your ego does not like change. It likes to be comfortable. We like to be comfortable. So when you're making all of these changes, it might signal to your body and your ego that there's danger. So just be aware that there might be sabotage that might take place, but be aware of it, identify it, release it, and move on. The next tip for getting obsessed with your life is to make time for things that make you happy and what you truly love. Write down a dopamine menu. And if you're not familiar with this concept of dopamine menu, is to write down basically your happy list. Make a list of things that brings you joy, brings you happiness, brings you fulfillment. Maybe that's going on a hike. Maybe that's going on a walk. Maybe that's taking yourself to a spa or taking yourself on a vacation. Whatever it is, you can have low to high budget things, but have a list and curate this list for you. And this is so important in getting obsessed with your life, because sometimes we're just living, we're just surviving, but that is not what life is about. We have one life, so let's make it a good one. The next tip is another ritual that you can add to your routine is to have some kind of daily self-love habits. Now, whether this is doing yoga, giving yourself, lots of movement in the morning. Maybe it's saying affirmations. Maybe it's writing down affirmations. Maybe it's listening to really feel good music that helps you feel good in the morning, starting your day off right. How we start our day is so pivotal in the rest of our day. That's why I say having a strong morning routine is so key. For me, I wake up at 4:30 to 5 a.m. in the morning and I go work out. I come back, I cook myself a nice breakfast. I'm romanticizing my life. I am writing affirmations down. I'm reading a good book, listening to a good podcast. I literally have a whole life actually before my 9 to 5. It's kind of funny, but that's because it's so important to me to enjoy my life before going into work, because I want to set my tone for the day. Another pro tip in getting obsessed with your life is to let go of habits that's holding you back. So what it is that you need to change. Again, this goes back into my prior tips before, but it's identifying what it is that you want to change and understand how that's playing a key part in who you are. So maybe you spend too much time on social media. Maybe you are going to sleep way too late. Maybe you're having one too many glasses of wine per week. I don't know what it is, but understand what those habits are and ask yourself, are these habits in alignment with who it is that I want to be? If not, stop doing them. The next step of getting obsessed with your life is to literally be present. Be present in this moment, falling in love with yourself and not others. This is your life. Be selfish. Understand that no one comes first before you. And that's why they say when you are on an airplane, make sure to take care of yourself before you try to save someone else. It's so important to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So you need to fill up your cup first and foremost. So what does that look like? Maybe that's going on walks every day. Even if you don't have much time, maybe you have kids, maybe you have several jobs, maybe you have so many responsibilities, you can make time for yourself. That is why I say get obsessed with your life. This is your life, not theirs. You are not responsible for anyone else but yourself, unless you have kids or major responsibilities. But number one responsibility, it is you. You cannot take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself. So try to see what it is that you can fit in your day that you can serve to yourself first before serving others. And trust me, you're going to be able to serve others so much better once you serve yourself. The next tip is priorities. Setting your priorities straight. Getting obsessed with your life, you have to set some boundaries. You have to set some priorities. So, for example, something that I realized recently is that I was going out way too much. I was pouring so much of myself into others, which is great, which is like I was cultivating friendships and a lot of community, which is one of my strong values. But I realized I was neglecting myself a lot. I realized I wanted to be in a certain position in my job, in my career next year. I want to get my podcast going. I wanted to build up my personal brand. So I realized I needed to take some time away from others and pour that more into myself and set my priorities straight. So understanding what your priorities are, your boundaries, and this will help you tremendously into creating a life that you love. So that is all my tips for you guys today in this podcast/YouTube. Again, if you guys are not following me on social media, I encourage that. I post some tips there. But again, you can watch this video on YouTube and to it also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your favorite streaming platforms are. Make sure to subscribe, follow along on this journey of let me reintroduce myself. If you liked this podcast, give it a thumbs up and rating, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.